Joined at the desk by attorney Michael Jankins from the Jankins Law Firm as we're talking bankruptcy yet again this morning, and some really interesting things involving bankruptcy, especially when you consider there are misconceptions about what bankruptcy is all about.
Well, yes, we're getting calls from people all the time, and they have the wrong ideas about what bankruptcy is or is not. And so part of the hurdle is convincing people that it's okay if they need to file bankruptcy, and it's not a bad thing.
Now, what is that? Let's just start right there. When people say, I'm going to file for bankruptcy, I'm thinking about filing for bankruptcy, what does that mean?
It means they're in broadcasting.
Well, what bankruptcy is and what it does for people, which is Chapter 7, that is a kind of bankruptcy that's going to eliminate your common type of debts. Those would be credit cards, medical bills, old cell phone and utility bills, payday loans, unsecured bank loans, things like that. So when you file, you get a fresh start, and those debts disappear forever. They're gone.
When did that get started? Not to turn this into a history lesson, but when did we decide as a culture and a government and a society that we need something where we can get rid of our debts?
Well, longer than we've all been around,
right.
I think.
I think it's when the Etch-a-Sketch was invented, where they can just shake it over their head.
Shake it and it'll go away.
I know whatever answer I give, it'll probably be wrong. But as long as I've been alive, there's been bankruptcy.
Right. Yeah, you've always heard of it, but it's like, I wonder who came up with this.
But it's basically pushing the reset button.
Pretty
on your
much.
Finances. Okay.
Just, you know, back in 2009, the big banks got in trouble, and the government basically pushed the reset button and said, we're going to keep them in business. And the auto industry, they said, well, we're going to not let them fail. So the government basically let them survive and cleared them out of all kinds of debt. Unfortunately, the everyday person doesn't get the government's help, so they created laws so that people could save themselves when they got in too bad.
That makes sense.
Our economy is a consumer economy. If people can't spend, the economy would fail.
Right.
So they allow this option of bankruptcy so people can get back up on their feet and have the ability to spend in the economy again, rather than drowning in their debt.
All right. So what are some of the other misconceptions?
What are people wrong about when it comes to bankruptcy?
Well, I get calls sometimes from people, they're confused about the different kind of bankruptcies. Chapter 7's the regular kind of bankruptcy. The other kind of bankruptcy is called Chapter 13 that a consumer might take, and that's where they actually create a payment plan through the court for 5 years. They make monthly payments. It's sort of a consolidation, and then the court takes the money and divides it up amongst all the people you owe. So we'll get a call from people who want to keep their home and they want to keep their car, and they go, I need to file Chapter 13 bankruptcy. And I go, why do you think you need to file that kind? And they go, because I want to keep my home and I want to keep my car. And we say, well, you can, but you can still do a Chapter 7 and do that. You'll just keep paying those particular loans after it's all over, when all the other things go away. So people just get confused because they want to pay some of their debt. They think, oh, I have to be in Chapter 13, and they don't.
So can the consumer decide which one is going to be allocated that you're going to continue to pay if you file Chapter 7, or is it a predetermined?
Well, sometimes. That's what the whole change in the law was back in 2005. It became a very mechanical formula as to who could get a Chapter 7. The way it used to be before 2005 was there was a set of standards that I would call ambiguous, and they were left up to interpretation of the courts as to who would be able to have a Chapter 7 bankruptcy or not. They would look at your budget, just your income coming in that you're representing, and your living expenses, and if you showed a certain amount of money left and available, and it was basically you knew it if you saw it type of thing, let's say $400 or $500 was left available, well, they would make a determination, well, that person should be able to pay part of their debt back. Look, they've got this kind of money left over. Right. And in our area here in Iowa, we had very strict interpretations of that, and it worked quite a bit better than this new law worked as far as getting more people to be in Chapter 13. Okay. With the change, they made it a mechanical formula where if you have this, and this, they would give you a certain standard of living they would expect that you could live within. They would subtract it from an average of your income for the last 6 months, a net, And if you hit a certain number, you got to have a Chapter 7. And if you didn't, then you would participate in a Chapter 13 as your option if you wanted to be in the bankruptcy court. The new law did not accomplish what the government intended it to accomplish. It was to get more high income earners into paying in a Chapter 13, and it didn't happen that way. More high income earners actually benefited and got Chapter 7 that never would have under the old way we did it.
So laws are changed, but a lot of people still remember the old ways.
A lot of people remember the old ways. A lot of people, because the law was changing for so long, there was so much lobbying in Congress, and the president wouldn't sign the bill, and it took 6-7 years about talking about the thing before it actually became law. And so people thought bankruptcy was going away. And so we still get calls going, can I still do this? How much of my debt do I have to pay back now? What % of my credit cards? And people have the wrong idea. Chapter 7 still exists like it always did, and you don't have to pay back part of your credit card debt in a Chapter 7. That's only in Chapter 13. But it was going on so long, people still remember, those that were old enough to, 10 years ago, to remember that stuff going on. And so it's just not that way, but people have it in their mind that it is. So
what about married couples?
Well, sometimes people think, well, I'm married, so if my husband's filing or my wife's filing, I have to file too. Unfortunately, there's some attorneys that apparently think that too, that don't practice lots of bankruptcy law, because we've seen where people would have taken a previous bankruptcy and then we hear regrets from one of the spouses going, yeah, as it turned out, I didn't even need to be in that. I wish somebody would have told me, because the person maybe only had a little bit of the debt. You only put a person in bankruptcy if there's a significant benefit to the person, and marriage doesn't make you have to go into it. That kind of brings you into the other misconception. Just because you're married to somebody doesn't mean you're liable for all of the debts of each other. With credit cards or bank loans, if you didn't sign the credit card application or you didn't sign the bank loan, you are not on the debt. And so if the debt goes bad, the credit card company and the bank, they can't pursue the person that didn't sign up for the thing.
I'm sure this is way too complicated to keep going on, but if you did sign it, are you then?
If you signed it, you bought it, and you can be liable for being sued.
For it as well.
In which case, you'd want to be part of the bankruptcy if your name is on too much.
All right. Now, if people want more information on how to get a hold of you to help get bigger, longer explanations of this and more detailed explanations of this, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, you can call me, and I'm happy to talk to you on the phone at 255-1855. Or you can find me on the internet at www.iowa-bankruptcylaw.com.
There you go. Mike Jenkins, thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you. It is 8:51. We'll be back.